The Blood Elves are personally one of my favourite races in Warcraft, and despite being seen as vain and self-centered, have given a huge amount to the history of Warcraft. The once High Elves have been ever present in the universe, and are the most played Horde race. I think you can see from the length of this video, it's going to be a lore-packed episode. So, find a comfy chair, grab some ale, and let's get down to the stories. At number 5 we have DRATHIR. Although technically not a Blood Elf, as a Magister of KAEL'THAS, Darkhan used the Sunwell to help build, shape and design the cities and world the High Elves lived in. Being a friend of future Regent Lord Lorthamar Theron and playing a big role in the forming of a mighty kingdom, you would think his life would be pretty peachy. However, lack of recognition for his part in these glorious deeds, coupled with his own ego, pushed him down a dark path. Frustrated by a lack of acknowledgement, Darkhan was overjoyed when Prince AETHAS, commander of a mighty Scourge army, reached out to aid him, and he pledged his loyalty to the Prince of Lordaeron. Manipulated and strengthened by his new master, it was his friendship with Lorthamar that allowed Darkhan to help AETHAS and his army slip past the elven defences, slaughtering his own comrades in the process, all the while believing that AETHAS was helping him to fulfill his desire for the Sunwell's power. AETHAS used the Sunwell to revive KAEL'THAS, destroying it in the process, and after his resurrection, Darkhan, having attempted to betray AETHAS by taking the Sunwell's power for himself, just as he had betrayed his own people, was killed by the Death Knight. Afterwards, he was raised in the service of the Scourge, and realised that some of the Sunwell's power had survived the destruction. Darkhan was sent to track down where the remaining magic had gone. Following years of searching, he finally found what he was looking for, in the form of a peasant girl named Anvina Teague, who was also drawn attention from members of the Blue Dragonflight. She was the Sunwell's remaining energy incarnate, formed by the Red Dragon KAEL'THAS. Darkhan, now skilled in necromancy and commanding Scourge forces, attempted to capture her, kidnapping her in the Alterac Mountains and taking her to the Ghostlands. He there confronted her with the truth of her existence. It was here that he attempted to cast a spell which would allow him to absorb the energies from her. However, Anvina manifested the Sunwell's power and wielded it against him. Being more lich than a living being, he made a final desperate attempt to drain the energy from her directly, but was unable to withstand it and was obliterated. Darkhan's appearance in World of Warcraft remains something of a mystery, as though he was apparently vaporized by Anvina. He has returned yet again to command the Scourge forces in the Ghostlands, with no explanation as to the method of his revival. However, where there's a lich, there is always a way. At number 4 we have Lady LIADRIN. Once a priestess of the light, Lady LIADRIN felt that the light had abandoned the Blood Elves when they needed it most. After the Lich King destroyed KAEL'THAS, she renounced her vows and no longer served the light. This changed, however, when KAEL'THAS SUNSTRIDER offered her the chance to siphon the light from the captured Naaru, Muru. She was the first to do this, and twisted the light to serve her needs. She became the first and the leader of an organisation known as the Blood Knights. These Blood Knights are an organisation of paladins, similar to the Knights of the Silver Hand. LIADRIN and her organisation were very loyal to KAEL'THAS, and so when he betrayed the Blood Elves and sought higher powers through the Burning Legion, she and her Blood Knights went to Outland to speak with the Dahl, leader of the Naaru. It was here that she was told she was the subject of a prophecy by Velen. A Dahl said, "Both our peoples suffered greatly at the hands of KAEL'THAS and his agents, Lady LIADRIN. Your people were not the authors of their own fate, but they will die if they do not change." Muru accepted his role long ago, knowing full well what would happen to him. Will you accept your own? Lady LIADRIN replies, "I do not understand. You and Muru knew all along that this will occur?" Adal says, "It wasn't I who foretold it, but Velen of the Draenei." Silvery moon washed in blood, led astray into the night, armed with a sword of broken light. Broken, then betrayed by one, standing there beside the sun. At darkest hour redemption comes, in knightly lady sworn to blood. LIADRIN, who was ashamed of her actions from there on after, pledged her Blood Knights to Adal and the Shatar. They aligned with the Shattered Sun offensive and travelled with them to KAEL'THAS to reclaim the island from KAEL'THAS. When the Sunwell was restored by Prophet Velen using the Heart of Muru, who died in the assault on Sunwell Plateau, the surge of power that the Sunwell gave out reinvigorated LIADRIN's faith in the light, and now she teaches paladins to embrace the light, rather than twist it to serve them. In third place we have Grand Master ROMMATH. ROMMATH is the Grand Magister of KAEL'THAS, meaning he is the leader of the Blood Elves Order of Magi. He is also one of Regent Lord Lor'themar Theron's personal advisors. ROMMATH also holds the title of Archmage, and long served the Kirin Tor before cutting ties with them after being disgusted with Othmar Garathos's oppression and slaughter of the Blood Elves in Dalaran. He now strongly opposes any Blood Elves interaction with the Kirin Tor. ROMMATH gladly followed KAEL'THAS SUNSTRIDER through the Dark Portal to Outland. It was here that he learnt the art of siphoning magical essence from Illidan Stormrage, and was sent back to Silvermoon to teach the remaining Blood Elves how to sate their magical addiction. He told the remaining Blood Elves that KAEL'THAS would one day return and bring the remaining Blood Elves to paradise. ROMMATH remained in KAEL'THAS and helped rebuild the city of Silvermoon. With their addiction to magic controlled, they started rebuilding the empire that was destroyed by AETHAS, waiting for KAEL'THAS to return. However, when KAEL'THAS betrayed the Blood Elves, ROMMATH, whose heart was tied to Silvermoon, continued supporting the city abandoned by their leader. Ever distrustful of the Kirin Tor, ROMMATH was unsurprised when Jaina abandoned Dalaran's neutrality and threw its support behind the alliance. He rushed to Dalaran to rescue the exiled AETHAS SUNREAVER and help evacuate the SUNREAVERs during the Purge of Dalaran. Though he succeeded in saving a number of his people, he could not find AETHAS, but after learning that he was held captive in the Violet Citadel, ROMMATH went there and succeeded in breaking AETHAS out. They later escaped the city atop Dragonhawks and returned to Silvermoon. ROMMATH debriefed Lor'themar of the situation and was ordered to add the Sunreaver's strength to his own. ROMMATH strongly supports Lor'themar, and with his council hopes Lor'themar will one day lead Silvermoon to its former glory. In second place we have AETHAS SUNREAVER. AETHAS SUNREAVER is the leader of the organisation that bears his name, the Sunreavers. As an accomplished mage, he rose quickly up the ranks of the Kirin Tor, and despite being young, eventually took seat in the Council of Six, being the first Blood Elf to be a member. A staunch supporter of neutrality, he worked hard to allow the Horde a place in Dalaran during the war against the Scourge in Northrend. It is therefore because of him the once Alliance city became neutral. He had a major role to play in the battle against the Blue Dragonflight, and learnt about the ley lines connecting to the Nexus, and Malagos's plans to use them to his advantage, therefore playing a big part in stopping the crazed dragon. AETHAS' neutral stance was tested when the Horde, under Garrosh, declared war on the Alliance after the Cataclysm. He agreed with Ronin, leader of the Kirin Tor, in sending Thaylen Songweaver to Theramore as a deterrence to Garrosh. However, Thaylen turned out to be a spy of Garrosh's and assisted in the breakthrough of the Horde, ending in the decimation of Theramore via the Mana Bomb. With Thaylen being a Blood Elf, his treachery was a massive blow to AETHAS. Jaina Proudmoore, who looked over Theramore, was outraged and sought vengeance on the Horde. After being denied help from the Kirin Tor, as they had lost their leader Ronin in the War of Theramore, she threatened to the same destruction upon Orgrimmar. But Caligos of the Blue Dragonflight stopped Jaina, and she returned to Dalaran humbled, pledging herself to the Kirin Tor. However, her actions in the face of despair endeared her to the Kirin Tor's leaders, who offered to make her the new leader. AETHAS supported this and gave the closing speech to seal the deal. When the Horde made landfall in Pandaria, AETHAS was called upon by Lor'themar Theron to decipher a Mogu device they had found. AETHAS became wary of Garrosh's influence on Lor'themar's orders and, under the influence of the Shah, warned the Regent Lord that the Blood Elves could be heading down a slope similar to that when they were under the leadership of KAEL'THAS. This uncertainty towards Garrosh was warranted after he ordered SUNREAVER Magi to circumvent Jaina's wards around Darnassus via a portal to steal the Divine Bell. Seen as a direct act of defiance, Jaina expelled the Horde from Dalaran. AETHAS tried to stop her, but she would not listen, instead capturing him in the Violet Citadel. With Dalaran under Alliance control, Grandmaster ROMMATH, advisor to Lord Thamar, led a rescue team to Dalaran and successfully rescued AETHAS. Despite it being Jaina who exiled the Sunreavers, they also held Garrosh just as responsible. AETHAS also played a big part on the Isle of Thunder as a secondary leader to the Sunreaver onslaught, helping in the war against the Thunder King. And in first place, yes, you probably guessed it, it's KAEL'THAS SUNSTRIDER. The only son of Anasterian SUNSTRIDER, King of KAEL'THAS, Prince KAEL'THAS was once a powerful mage and a member of the Six, the High Council of the Kirin Tor. It wasn't until Anasterian's death during the attack on KAEL'THAS by Arthas and his Scourge army that he returned to Silvermoon City. KAEL'THAS closed off the corrupted Sunwell using moon crystals, saving his people from the continued exposure of dark energy. However, it also condemned the elves to a mana-hungry existence. He renamed his people the Blood Elves and began work to see KAEL'THAS become great once again. KAEL'THAS joined what was known as the Remnants of the Alliance, who were battling against the Scourge in Lordaeron at the time. He saw this as a way of getting vengeance against the Scourge who had razed his homeland. He commanded Lord Thamar Theron to take control of KAEL'THAS and took many of the most powerful Blood Elves with him to serve Grand Marshal Garithos against the Scourge. Garithos, Kael's commanding officer, disliked all non-human races. He informed Kael that a strike force was encroaching on Dalaran, and that he was going to meet them at the mountains. Kael volunteered his assistance, but Garithos explained that a second force was believed to be approaching from the east, and that the observatories needed repairs so that they could use them to spot them. Kael did as ordered, but when he came to Lordamere Lake, he found the shipyard ruined, and had no access across the water. Lady Vash, a Naga witch, arrived to offer her aid. Vash gave them boats which Kael used to move his troops to the observatories. However, when Garithos returned from the front, he condemned Kael for dealing with the Naga, despite the prince's assurances that they were not a threat to the alliance. Garithos warned Kael that he would not tolerate treason, before leaving Kael to keep things in line at Dalaran. An emissary sent by Garithos arrived the next day with further orders, reporting that the observatories had detected an undead force in the west. Kael was to defeat them with only his fellow elves to aid him, and the undead were quick to take the outposts across the river. Once again Lady Vash arrived with her Naga, and though Kael was wary of accepting her offer, she insisted that without her aid, the elves would surely lose. Together they defeated the undead, but Kael was imprisoned for once again allying with the Naga, and was kept in the dungeons of Dalaran. Lady Vash helped Kael escape the dungeon with his people, and led them through the dark portal to Illidan, who she promised would help sate the Blood Elves' magical addiction. Kael found himself on the barren lands of Outland, and Vash revealed that this was once the orcish homeland of Draenor, now in control by Magtheridon and his fell orcs. They searched for Illidan for days, until they came across Maiev Shadowsong, who had captured Illidan and was escorting him back to her base in a prison wagon. Kael and Vash quickly came to Illidan's aid and returned him to their base, where they could undo the magical lock that kept him caged. Kael later discovered a camp of Draenei being assaulted by orcs, and lent them his aid. He was greeted by Akama, the elder sage, who offered his allegiance to Illidan. Finally, the time came to assault Magtheridon's Black Temple. Illidan, Kael and Vash, along with Akama, all led their forces against Magtheridon, infiltrating the fortress and finally defeating him in his own throne room. When Illidan thought he was triumphant, Kil'jaeden descended from the fiery sky and rebuked Illidan for his insolence in trying to hide. The demon gave him one last chance to save himself: destroy the frozen throne or face his eternal wrath. KAEL'THAS, Illidan and Vash went to Northrend where they fought against AETHAS, with KAEL'THAS dueling AETHAS twice, matching up to him evenly. However, due to AETHAS being close to the Lich King in Icecrown, he was empowered and KAEL'THAS was forced to retreat, losing fellow Malorn in the process. Illidan was bested by AETHAS, and Vash and KAEL'THAS took his body to Outland to restore him. After this loss, KAEL'THAS with some of his most powerful servants claimed the magic-rich area of Netherstorm as his base of operations in Outland. KAEL'THAS himself claimed the citadel of Tempest Keep as his own, and was able to overcome the powerful defenders, including the Naru, Muru, whom KAEL'THAS sent back to Silvermoon for his people to feed upon. It was this attack that led to the Draenei being forced to flee in a vessel known as the Exodar. Later on, KAEL'THAS sent Voronthal the Seer and his forces to attack Shattrath City and the Sha'tar, though Voronthal threw down his weapons and defected. This betrayal was a massive blow to KAEL'THAS, as Voronthal commanded some of the most gifted magisters and scholars he had in Outland. KAEL'THAS was now cornered in his sanctuary of Tempest Keep. He was defeated, but was not dead, as Priestess Delrissa allowed him to escape death by healing him back to life. Having collected energy from the mana forges in Netherstorm, KAEL'THAS returned to Quel'Thalas to reopen the Sunwell, but not to serve his people. Instead, he used it as a mystic portal that would allow him to summon his new master, Kil'jaeden. Here, the Shattered Sun offensive stopped him once again, and he was finally killed, laid to rest on Quel'Thalas, part of the dynasty he used to try to protect. There are loads more awesome Blood Elves out there, and if I could include them all in this list, I really would. The Blood Elf lore is some of the richest and tells a fantastic story for the race. I really recommend checking out some of the books, such as the Sunwell trilogy, to get the full backstory, because it is really cool. Thank you so much for stopping by to yet another one of my videos. Your support has been really great and I'm really enjoying making content for you all. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please don't hesitate to post them in the comments below, and hit me up on Twitter as well. I'd really appreciate it if you commented, liked and subscribed to my channel as well. Thanks a lot, and see ya!